Alright. Alright, cool. So welcome back. We are here with FEZ, the game which very nearly threatened to not actually let us run it here at this wonderful event, so that's cool. But fortunately I decided to, I guess unplugging my controller actually got it to start up, so shoutouts to USB. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this run momentarily, and I'll try to explain what's going on as I go, but let's be honest, this is FEZ. If you haven't played it, you're very quickly going to find out you have no clue what's actually going on, and that's okay. It's just a good, well, it's a speed game. Anyway, let's count it down in 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So this is FEZ. It's a puzzle platformer for the PC and the Xbox 360 and some other platforms, maybe, I think. Made by a dude, well, made by some people several years ago. And it's really pretty clever in terms of how it works. So right now, as you see, the world is two-dimensional. And I'm going to navigate it in a fairly standard two-dimensional platformy kind of way. And I'm going to very shortly get access to an artifact, I guess you might call it, called the FEZ. And when I get the FEZ, things are going to become a little bit wacky. So right at the beginning, we're going to do a really stupid trick that is going to involve a frame-perfect jump as I come back to life here. So I'm actually just mashing the jump button as fast as I possibly can. Not even kidding here. And if I miss this a couple more times, I'm going to go for a backup route, because it'll be funny to do that. But this trick is so stupid, and it saves so much time. And we got it, and I accidentally paused, but that's fine. Alright, so that still saves time compared to the alternative route, so think about how stupid that is as we continue along. Something that you are going to see a lot of, even when I'm doing some of the more complex platforming later in the game, is you're going to see a lot of corner interaction. So there's 3 ways of kind of getting onto ledges in this game. One is that you just jump over and up onto the ledge. 2 is that you jump to the side of the ledge, or more accurately, the front of the ledge, and you grab it and climb up. And 3 is that you jump onto the corner, and then you grab the corner and you climb up on the corner. And those were in increasing order of length. So climbing up a corner is a very long animation that you really don't want to have to watch. So in order to avoid that, we're going to do some tricks that you're going to start seeing in a little bit. I actually tried to do, it's called a corner hop, where you hop off of the corner and onto the platform, but so far I have not been successful at it, so you haven't seen one. Also, some stuff is happening. As you might have noticed, the world is actually 3-dimensional, and we're going to get this FEZ, which we're going to wear, which is going to allow us to shift the world. Basically, our character is still 2-dimensional, but there are 3 dimensions, so we can change which 2 dimensions we're moving in. And as a result, we can interact with the world in very unique ways. So it's pretty mind-bending in terms of how it actually works. And it can be pretty hard to wrap your head around it at first. So here's just a little tutorial about how to use the FEZ. You press left trigger and right trigger. It's pretty straightforward. Is that... Are you guys seeing this? Okay. Alright, it's fine. It restarted. It's fine. So anyway, I guess we'll just start again. It's whatever. Don't bother resetting the timer or anything. So this is FEZ. It's an indie puzzle platformer released a couple years ago for some platforms made by some people. As you see, we now have a FEZ, so that wasn't all a dream. We actually are continuing the same run. Here, this is Dot. Normally, she does not have text at this point, but because we did that skip earlier to get that cube early on, she does. And if I advance this text right now, I will actually soft lock the game, so I just have to be careful and wait until Now. The only button that advances text in this game is B, so you have to mash B as fast as possible. Alright, so what I'm going to do to start here is drop down and open this door, because I have one cube, which is enough to open it. And that will just avoid having to wait for the door to open. And here in this room, I've entered a secret code. So there's two kinds of cubes in this game. There's golden cubes, and there's anti-cubes. Golden cubes are generally acquired by doing kind of basic platforming and exploration type of stuff. Whereas, anti-cubes are acquired through solving complex, like, meta kind of puzzles hidden throughout the game world. And, oh, I totally forgot. Hold on. That's not it. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So there's a secret code there, and I used to have all these codes memorized. When I did this run in AGDQ, I had these codes memorized, but I've partially forgotten some of them, so I don't actually have my list in front of me. If you see me get out my phone at some point during this run, you will know why. Anyway, anti-cubes are collected by solving kind of very complex, obscure puzzles that there are in the game, and totally forgot to rotate there. One type of those is that there are secret codes that you can kind of decode by solving these puzzles, and when you decode those secret codes, you get a sequence of buttons that you can press in either a certain place or at a certain time to spawn a cube. And the goal of the game is to collect 32 cubes, so it doesn't matter whether we get anti-cubes or golden cubes, they both work just fine. So in this run, we're actually going to get something like 10 gold cubes, or no, 11 gold cubes and 21 anti-cubes. So as it turns out, a lot of our cubes are going to come from doing these puzzles that normally we would have to spend a lot of time trying to figure things out, but we've already done that. Like, I already know what the solutions to the puzzles are, so I already know what the codes are, which means I don't have to go and sit there and solve them again. So it's a very efficient and quick way of getting a bunch of cubes. So we're heading to the first area in the game where you're going to see a complex trick called teleport jumping. It's really hard to explain exactly what's going on here, but the results are at least pretty impressive to see. Also, I'm doing some corner hops here, but unfortunately failing at them a little bit. And trying to do some teleport jumps. The basic idea of a teleport jump is not to do this. Sorry, let me try to get this before I resume commentary. Please get on the ledge. Gomez. 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 Oh my gosh, Gomez. Wow! This is the rudest he has ever been on this particular skip. There we go. See how easy that is if you don't suck. Oh, by the way, this bell is very loud. There's a puzzle on this bell involving a number of times you're supposed to hit each side, but I don't want to really spoil how I solved it or anything, so I'm going to kind of leave that to, you know, if you've already figured it out, then you've already figured it out. Anyway, the idea of teleport jumps is, in certain spots on the map, there will be a recess in the plane that you're currently looking at, where you're basically like further in compared to the foreground. And when you when you turn the perspective in one of those positions, it kind of warps you to a different location, and that allows you to do some very wacky platforming. That's probably the best explanation I can do on low sleep and in a short period of time. This is a simple little puzzle where you rearrange these blocks to form, obviously, Tetris shapes, and you have to play with the perspective to get them into the right spots. So I kind of cheesed it a little bit with a little trick that resulted in shifting the blocks. And hey, black holes. I do not like black holes. So black holes are a mechanic that just kind of... Oh, that was an accidental teleport jump. Black holes are a mechanic where the second or subsequent time you visit a given room, there's a chance for black holes to spawn, and when there are black holes, they usually just get in the way and are really annoying. Yeah, I just clipped through the wall there, by the way. And in this particular room, they do actually cost a fair bit of time. In most rooms, they don't actually cost like any real significant amount of time, but in this room, they really do. So there's actually only like a half dozen or so chances in the run to even see black holes. So getting it on the first possible opportunity is a little bit of a shame. So another thing I have not quite drawn attention to is I'm picking up these little small golden cubes. They're actually called cube bits. When you collect 8 of those, as you might have seen if you were paying attention, or paying close attention, that is, collecting 8 of these little cube bits assembles a full cube. Oop. Let's try that again. There's a bunch of teleport jumps in this room, and unfortunately, some of them are rather dicey. Particularly this one, gives you a small space to do this jump. But it's still way faster than navigating the room normally. Alright. And now we're gonna do kind of intentional death. Except we're not actually gonna die if I aim this right. Really should not be giving me as much trouble as it has been today. Alright, there we go. So if you aim at that door properly, then you don't die when you fall in front of it and open it immediately. Alright, so now we're heading to the waterfall, and there are 2 secret codes I need to enter here, so I need to pause and think about them to remember what they are. So give me a moment. That's a bad input. There we go. Okay, cool. So I just opened a door on the side of that hill, and I also opened the waterfall, which allows me to access this room. So this allows me to lower the water, which gives me access to 1 cube later in the run. And it turns out that that cube is still fast enough that going to the trouble of entering the code and lowering the water and stuff is still worth it. So here's a bomb. After a period of time, it opens up, it blows up and opens up passages like that. And this is literally the only time in the run you're going to see it. And there was also a secret code in this room. Again, I'm not going to explain how I figured these out. I would recommend, if you haven't already played the game and figure them out yourself, that you do play it, because it's actually a very, very good game, casually. It's very hard to follow in a speedrun. This room is called the rhythm room, or the sync room, or a lot of other things, and everything is on a cycle based on the music here, so I'm going to need to focus for a minute. Wow, I should not have gotten that. Okay. Now the serious time. That is bad. Yeah. Okay, we missed the first cycle, but we'll get the second one. Okay. So this room, since it's on cycles, there is a theoretical earliest possible cycle you can get. And we actually used to think it was impossible to get that cycle. So we had what was called the cycle 1 that you would go for as the earliest possible cycle you could get. But eventually we discovered it was possible to get a faster cycle. So we call that the 0 cycle. And basically what I got there was the 1 cycle, which is actually, we used to think that was really hard back when we were worse at platforming there. But now that we know that the 0 cycle is possible, 1 is actually really, really easy to get every time. Alright. So we're just heading to more areas where we're going to get more cubes. The world, if you're familiar with the game, you know the game world consists of a lot of like major hubs, each of which has kind of a different look and feel to it, and different music and different kinds of ambiance and stuff. We're mostly sticking with this main area with the waterfall and the other related stuff. And the reason is that this area has a ton of readily accessible bits and cubes and secrets and other stuff. So it's really hard to go wrong in this area. It's pretty fast in general. Here, I don't even know how to explain that little trick that I just did. Just don't worry about it. I didn't want to grab that platform, but it's fine. Whoa. Whoa, get in the door. So there's two main challenges in kind of optimizing a speedrun for this game. One is figuring out a good route in terms of which cubes you're going to get and which bits you're going to get and so on and so forth. And we have some runners of this game, both in the present and in the past, who've done really a fantastic job of sorting out like all the different possible ways you can approach this game and picking out something that I think is pretty optimal. I would be really surprised if someone came up with a substantially different route at this point in terms of bits and cubes and stuff. Also, I'm going to show you guys a treat. Let's do something fun. If you haven't seen this before, I think you got to make sure that you are watching very closely. This is important. Whoa, don't do that yet. We're going to go to a fun room. So normally this room is not part of the route because I already have enough cubes just from doing other stuff, but what the heck? Let's do it. Aw, yeah. Aw, isn't it lovely? Check out that eye-searing goodness. You probably can't even tell what's going on the stream right now. It's so good. So this room is, I forget exactly what it's called. I think it's called the glitch room. Oh, please, make the jump. And if you can't actually see what's happening because the bitrate is just completely destroyed, basically this... Nice jump. This room is, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess every tile of, like, the, you know, it's a tile-based game, right? So the screen is composed of tile graphics. Every tile outside of, like, the space around Gomez is just picking from a random tile graphic from the entire rest of the game. So it's truly lovely. So I hope you've appreciated that trip through the glitch room. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, unless you play the game and go here yourself. I mean, really, you probably couldn't see what was going on the stream anyway. It was worth it. Okay, so now we're going to continue with the actual route. There's a lot more... secret codes coming up, so I gotta just make sure that I actually remember the ones that are involved. Each of these secret codes is a set of button presses, usually around 8. And as it turns out, like 8 button presses on like a 360 controller or whatever. Oh, hold on. There we go. Times like the 15 or however many secret codes you use in this run. It's actually a lot of things to remember, so it can actually be pretty challenging to keep it all straight. I managed to do it before AGDQ, which actually took a fair bit of work. But, like I said, it's actually pretty challenging to remember, so since I haven't really put a lot of effort into keeping it straight, I've somewhat forgotten. Alright, so here we're going to see our second instance of hidden oh, hold on. There we go. Our second instance of hidden platforms, which I didn't actually call attention to earlier. as you see here, there are invisible platforms in this room. Normally, the way you would find out that those platforms are there is by getting something like this, a treasure map. And on the treasure map, it would indicate like a silhouette of this room, and it would show you where the platforms were in silhouette form. But I actually don't need those because the platforms are always there, regardless of whether you have the map. Also, this jump is very tight. Very tight. Please make the jump, Gomez. Okay, good enough. So I don't actually have to acquire the treasure maps in order to see the hidden platform, or more accurately, in order to go to the hidden platforms. That said, I did just acquire a treasure map, and that one I'm going to need. I'll talk about that in a minute. This puzzle is... you are intended to use these blocks to construct one of the 11 arrangements of faces, like of a flat object that can be folded into a cube without cutting. So there's 5 or 10 of them on that board behind you, and you just have to build the 11th. Anyway, the reason I picked up that treasure map... Oh, hold on. Another secret code. The reason I picked up that treasure map is it has a QR code on it. Spoiler, QR codes are involved in some of the puzzles in this game. And that particular QR code tells you a secret code to use later in the game. Now, I already know what the code is. I just entered it right here. But the problem is, even if you know the code, you can't get the cube from it unless you have the map, for whatever reason. So, we get the map. As it turns out, it's still faster than getting some other sort of cube. And then, because we have to wait for that panorama thing there, this turns out to be a pretty good place to spawn that cube. This room also has a QR code on the wall with another secret code, but unfortunately we have to walk in and back out to be able to do it. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. And then one more, this next room has the longest code in the game. It has 16 inputs. So let me do that real quick. Okay. Obviously, there's not a lot of skill inherent in entering secret codes that I've memorized, but the memorization part is actually not entirely trivial, but then entering them is not really a big deal. The real challenge in terms of speedrunning this game is just optimizing the platforming and your perspective shifts. Here, for example, is this interesting room. These timed switches allow you to climb these vine walls for a period of time, but then they very quickly count down. And then you run out of opportunity. So you have to platform pretty well to get through here. Alright. Another code here that I thought again for a second that I'd forgotten, but as it turns out, I did remember. Fortunately, in a lot of cases, even though my brain doesn't remember the code, my fingers do. So actually coming upon kind of the last few bits of the run. This is actually one of my favorite rooms in the game. Here you're supposed to use one of these time switches to line up these weird platforms and get the vines in a shape that you can climb, and why bother? You can just do this. Whoa. Of course there are black holes here. There are always black holes here. This room, though. Okay, so just have one more section to really do, and that is the lighthouse. And we're going to come to an end. But unfortunately, this game just can't come to like a quick end. So it's going to be like 4 minutes of panoramas and slow gameplay and stuff. It's one of the kind of crappiest parts of this game as a speed run. Like, it's a really, like, the part where platforming and exploring the world and collecting cubes is really, really good gameplay and, like, honestly impressive as a speed run. But the first 3 minutes and, oops, the last 4 minutes are unfortunately just tedious, which is kind of a shame. Of course, if puzzle platformers aren't your thing, then probably the whole game is tedious, but whatever. Okay. To each their own. So here's another kind of puzzle I actually intentionally didn't explain. This is a tuning fork. When you go to a tuning fork, it vibrates your controller in a certain way that teaches you a code to use to activate the tuning fork and get a cube. I'm not going to tell you what that is exactly, but it's not particularly complex or anything. A little trick there to grab the corner of that house to make that travel a little bit faster compared to having to walk all the way from the bridge back over there. Hello? Grab the ledge, please. Thank you. So in this room, there's this ladder that only lines up every second rotation. And if you are fast at climbing, you can get all the way up in one cycle, but climbing in this game is actually really hard. The vine grab mechanics and ladder grab mechanics are really awkward, and it's easy to botch that. So getting that is actually pretty impressive, to be honest. Excuse me. It is really late, and I'm really tired. So here we got kind of the last interesting platforming room where you do some cool little tricks to get around, and then finally we got one more instance of hidden blocks. They're going to lead us all the way up to this chest here. And this chest contains the last full cube that we are going to collect, and then we've got one more from bits. And that'll do it for us. Now we actually already have 32 because I did the glitch room, which I would not normally have needed to do, just to show off, but, wow, please, drop down. I guess I never really explained that kind of the main way the game gates your progress is with these doors that, require different numbers of cubes. And so this door, which requires 16 cubes, allows you to access this second to last area. I forget what this village is called. It's actually written in a code language on the side of the building somewhere, but I forget what it is. In here, there's actually another door that requires 32 cubes in order to open. And that is, in fact, the entire reason we need to collect 32 cubes in this run. Otherwise, we would just finish at 16. Alright. And now the slow part. So, first this teleporter needs to open, which will take a little bit. So we're just gonna chill here. Hope you all are enjoying the marathon. Alright, once the gate opens, we jump up and go in, and now we wait for this lengthy panorama. So meanwhile, it's a good opportunity to remind you all that this is the Californithon. We are here at Esports Arena in Santa Ana, California from, we started yesterday, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going until Sunday night. Pacific time. A lot of cool runs and runners, and all of this is benefiting Charity Water, which is an awesome cause that you should go read up about at charitywater.org. So if you'd like to donate, I'm sure someone can go into the chat and do the exclamation point donate to give you the link to do that, but you really should, because Charity Water is a great charity that does a lot of good work. So this room is super, super tedious because you move like you're in molasses. Yeah. Ah, the corner grab, dude. So corner grabs are like extra slow and awful in this room. And of course, any other platforming mistakes are also exacerbated by quite a lot. And then at the top of this room, so everything's slowed down, including perspective shifts. And at the top of this room, there's a rotating cube that has a door in it. And you need to get in the door. And right now you can see that it's turning towards the direction I'm already facing. If I have to rotate the camera at all to get in that door, I lose a bunch of time because of that slow animation. So now we're finally in the door. Alright. So, one last cutscene, and then we will be done. If you guys didn't enjoy FEZ, that is totally okay. There are plenty of other good games in the sea. There you see we got our 33rd cube there. Tomorrow night I will actually, around the same time of night potentially, I'll be running Escape Go 2, which is another awesome indie game, and Bastion. And if you haven't heard of Bastion, then you have done yourself a great disservice. So if you are awake at this time tomorrow night, feel free to stop on by and enjoy those runs. I'm sure they will be more to your liking. I mean, not saying that FEZ is a bad game, but I know what it is. I know the kind of games people like to watch. That said, if you did enjoy this game, I'm very happy about that. And I would recommend that you go to speedrun.com/FEZ in all caps to find out more about it. And if we can get in the door. Time. What did we come up with?
We got a time of 31:49.
Wow, I actually came under estimate.
Well done, well done.
Yay. All the 2 people that are awake are totally applauding right now. Alright, so I believe up next we've got PX doing Valkyria Chronicles, right?
That is correct.
Alright, so look forward to that.
You bear with us for just a moment. We're going to play some ads while we set up for the next one.
Have a good night.
Thank you a lot, Vulajin.